So I practice civil litigation. I'm the lead litigator for the St. Augustine office, and I took over this office December 2013. I'm licensed in Florida and Georgia, and I handle auto cases, trucking cases, premises liability, which is slip and fall cases. We do some products liability as well, and we also handle some wrongful death as well. I did decide to become an attorney really young, and I don't think a lot of people do that, but I was in an accident when I was in high school, and I was only 16, and because I was young and it was all adults around, they basically just decided I was at fault. And when I look back, I still am a little bitter about it because I should have, my parents should have contested it. I really was not at fault. And they just kind of said, okay, yep, she's young, she's at fault, and it still makes me mad. And I've learned to I like to speak up for myself, and this is a natural career move for me. I started working in law firms when I was an undergrad at the University of Florida, so I've actually been working in law firms for probably 12 years now, 13 years now. I love this firm, and I'm not trying to be a suck-up, but Chuck and Eddie are actually just very nice bosses. They do not, it's not like you would imagine where they're high-strung or yelling or anything, and they just kind of trust you. Like, if you're doing well and clients are happy with you, they're happy, and that gives me freedom to do my job and makes me happy. For better or for worse, I am described as a very blunt, direct person, which I think actually works well in this. My clients have told me they appreciate that I'm not beating around the bush, I'm not avoiding their answer. I give them direct, truthful answers, for better or for worse. Sometimes I had a client recently tell me that I was a wet blanket, but that she really appreciated me telling her how it was. I don't tell clients what they necessarily want to hear, but what they need to hear. And that's my job as a legal advisor to them, is to tell them what they need to hear, the good and the bad. So I will tell you that I typically do not deal with clients until they're in litigation, which means they come to me because a lawsuit needs to be filed on their case for several reasons. Either the offer is nowhere near what it should be, or the client is unhappy with what the offer is. But usually it's a joint decision that the pre-suit offer was not anywhere near what we expect it to be or want it to be. And so I file a lawsuit so that we proceed through litigation against the at-fault carrier or at-fault party. So when I meet with them, their case has usually been established at that point. And so we go over several things, but they've been treating at that point, and I explain the litigation process to them. And I give them time frames. That's always important. Everyone always wants to know, how long is this going to take? And I discuss typical case values based on the level of injuries and treatment that they received. The more severe your injuries are, the more treatment you are going to require, and thus the longer this process takes. But the opposite is true. Obviously, if someone has more of a soft tissue injury where they don't need a lot of treatment, yes, that case can resolve quickly. But if you have a more severe injury and you require more treatment, the process does take longer. And a lot of times clients are frustrated because the pre-suit process, if they go through all this treatment and we send a demand and the response is not great, we then come to me and start litigation. And the litigation process is typically 9 to 12 months from the time I get it. It's for a good cause. It's to make sure that we're not settling for less than they deserve and they're not taking less than they should. So the process is necessary, but it is, anytime you're in the court system, it's going to be a kind of dragged out process. So it is usually about 9 to 12 months once it comes to me in litigation. There is often a common flow for treatment and for certain injuries, what to expect from it. So I've been able to help explain to clients where maybe they don't know necessarily what to ask their doctor, but from the symptoms they're explaining to me, I'm able to tell them, listen, I typically see my clients when they first start chiropractic, for example, it's common for them to have headaches. And I see that on a lot of people. So there's something there where, and you'd have to ask the doctor what is happening, but they are then like, oh, that explains it. It is since I started therapy or chiropractic treatment. There's a lot of areas. I mean, that's my job, is to give them legal advice and sometimes personal advice. Sometimes we're kind of like a therapist because it is confidential and they talk to me, and so they feel comfortable telling me. And a lot of this case is about how it's affected their daily life. Their activities of daily living are affected significantly with an injury and with pain. So my job is to certainly take note of all of that. I am a type A. Everything needs to be done as quickly as possible. I'm also extremely direct, very blunt about things. So my clients will all tell you if they have an outrageous request or an outrageous idea, or they're expecting an outrageous amount of money that is not proportionate to what their case facts are, I am the first one to tell them, just nope, that's not happening. So I try to be as consistent and direct as possible. So I have two small children. I have two boys. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 5-month-old right now, and I'm done. No more children. And so before we had kids, my husband's also a lawyer, and we traveled a lot. So we're very into traveling, and we did 30 countries before we turned 30. And now we're up to, I think, 39 countries. And we're still trying to get back into traveling with a 5-month-old and a 1.5-year-old. But the boys take up most of our free time right now, especially, I think we just got out of the newborn phase. So we've been kind of like a baby haze lately. But we try to do stuff with them all the time. We live at the beach here in St. Augustine, and we go out to the beach all the time. And we're always doing events in St. Augustine and bringing the kids places. So, you know, we're pretty active. Here in St. Augustine, my favorite charities are the Betty Griffin House, which is a domestic abuse shelter for women and children. And actually our whole office, our St. Augustine office, just recently volunteered at our local homeless shelter, St. Francis House. And I'm also a big fan of Keepers of the Coast, because I live at the beach and we do a lot of beach cleanups and we do a lot of the turtle patrol and all of that, so yes. Well, so I've worked with several firms before, and I think one thing people don't understand is that while Farah Farah is a very big firm, it definitely has a small firm quality mentality. And Chuck and Eddie are very big on the attorneys and the case managers all making sure that we have constant client contact, that we're always available. We actually have a new phone system now that rings to our cell phone. We get text on our phone. There's really no way for us not to be available. And so we make sure that, you know, I always tell my clients if they're stressed about anything and they're worried or upset, just call me. We'll deal with it rather than you stress about it. But our firm is really big on making sure that we all have the resources we need to make sure that we're working files and we're working hard on the files. And they make sure that their employees are incentivized to work hard on their files. And I think that's important, you know. No, they don't hire anyone that is lazy or really a type B personality. Everyone at this firm are go-getters and ambitious and aggressive, which I think is important at a law firm.